Welcome, everybody. Maybe. 3113. All right, in the name of the Son and the Holy Spirit, one God, amen. I called it last week during Holy Week. What did I say? Who remembers what I said about Thomas Sunday? Call me a prophet. I know, Spirit-led. Okay, that's why you know when I say something, it's going to happen, so be careful. It's okay, we'll give you guys a few days of rest. What we want to cover, God willing, in this next season of the Holy 50 in the 50 days is this concept that the angels told the Marys when they had come to the tomb and they came seeking Jesus, who they thought was buried in the tomb. And the angels said, "Why do you seek the living among the dead?" They're saying, Jesus doesn't belong among the dead. And this is actually a calling for each and every one of us to be aware that in the Holy 50 days, and you're going to notice in the Gospels of Sunday, it's all about life. Receiving life, the bread of life, the water of life. You're going to hear talk about the light of the world and this concept of receiving light. You can't live without light. And so the church is focusing on this concept of light, and we're going to be calling during this next 50 days to our attention so many things that either bring life or what? Cause us to abide in death. A lot of people say, how come my Holy 50s isn't as victorious and powerful like it's supposed to be, right? It's joyful, and we're celebrating the resurrection, and it's victory, but I felt way better in Lent. This is because we're not going to the right places to seek life. That during this 50 days, we should be making adjustments to our lives that we might be always in the environment of life. And what I want to talk about this morning is finding life in godly relationships. Godly relationships. So many people. You can discover for yourself how many of your relationships drain you. They suck the life out of you. They don't lead you to Christ. They don't lead you. They don't uplift you. They don't open up your eyes. They don't motivate you. They don't breathe life into you. You leave. You say, ever since I started hanging out with so-and-so, we see this in our kids, right? Ever since you started hanging out with so-and-so, you're not the same. What's wrong with you? And so there are many of us, whether we realize it or not, there are life-giving relationships, and there are like death-giving relationships. I don't know what you call it. Death-dwelling relationships, okay? And this is where what we want to talk about for today, and then we're going to find different ways in which we are seeking the living among the dead, okay? And we have to understand that relationships, they shape our spiritual life more than we realize. Some friendships, like we said, they draw us closer to God. They fill us with life and peace. That sometimes you could see that even in the early church, somebody would be smiling and say, "You must have met a Christian today. You must have met somebody that poured life into you." Do you have those people in your life? Are there people like that around anymore? Or is it just, sometimes young people tell me, we get together, we can't talk about God all the time. It's like, it's weird, it's awkward. Some people don't want to do that. Then they're not life-giving friendships. They're taking life. They're draining you. And you will end up abiding in death. We're going to see that, what St. John tells us in his first epistle, chapter 3, verse 14. We know that we have passed from death to life. The word passed is the same idea of Passover. Okay, that we have passed. What happened in the Passover? They passed from death, the angel of death, into life. And so that's what Passover was. And so St. John is telling us, we know that we have passed into life. We know that we are no longer in death. When? Because we love the brethren. He who does not love his brother abides in death. He who does not love his brother. We're going to talk about what these life-giving relationships look like, how we can grow in them, and then what are the relationships that bring death, and we're going to examine those. Proverbs 18 verse 1 says this: "The one who lives alone is self-indulgent, showing contempt for all who have sound judgment." You know, what Solomon is teaching us here is saying the person that kind of stays in their bubble is only indulging in themselves. My life is all about me. You say, no, Abuna, I ask about people, but I just like my me time. And this is not a calling to become extroverted, right? You know, there are very introverted people that are life-giving people, that they bring life to others. But people that like to stay in their bubble don't understand the calling of the Christian life. This is not me. This is Solomon. He says, the one who lives alone is self-indulgent. I don't want to worry about anyone else. I only want to think about me. As the body is nourished by food, so the soul is also nourished by the love of others. That, believe it or not, your soul is uplifted. But the reason why some of these people that want to stay in their bubbles, okay, people that want to stay in their bubbles, they want to stay in their bubbles because the people they're interacting with are sucking the life out of them. They're not bringing life. They're not uplifting. And so maybe your friends, one of your friends has started to kind of stop hanging out or distance themselves. Ask yourself why. Could it be possible that you are draining them? That you're not bringing life? That you're not inspiring others? It's a very dangerous thing. It's something that we need to be very, very aware of. People that give life, they know when to encourage me. They know when to cheer me on. They also know when to call me out, to stop the death. How many times do we have sometimes people are going in the path of death? And I'm not talking about physical death. I mean spiritual death. They're just going down the path of languishing. Languishing is the opposite of flourishing, right? If you have a flourishing plant, it's vibrant. Languishing is a dying plant. And so sometimes I need to figure out what's happening in this. Because love truly is the sign of spiritual life. And be careful. Sometimes we think love is not the absence of hate. I don't say anything bad to them. I'm not mean to them. I'm not mean to them. Does that mean that you love? What do you guys think? How did I bother you? How did I affect you? I didn't do anything to you. Why is it that you think I don't love you? Because that's not the definition of love. And we're going to see what love is. And that's really what the world is lacking. And that's really what the church can never lack. If the church lacks love, then we've lost our light. What good is a light hidden under a basket? Right? But what do? We put it on a lampstand that it gives light to all who are in the house. Let your light so shine before men. So it's very, very important that we understand that I cannot be this person that doesn't understand the value and concept of life. The circle of being connected, of having connection, is servanthood. Look at this verse here in Galatians. In Galatians chapter 5, verses 13 to 14, it says, "For you, brethren, have been called to liberty. Only do not use liberty as an opportunity for the flesh." When we think about an opportunity for the flesh, we're thinking of sometimes we think of sinful things when we think of the flesh. No, he's talking about do not use your freedom as an opportunity for selfishness, for being all about yourself, but through love, serve one another. We've been saying this even in marriages, that we're not even finding spouses serving one another, offering how I can give the other rest. Hey, if you want tea, go get it yourself. Look, we're all tired, man. We all went to work today. Everybody's tired. This is within a marriage. These are two people who love each other. Supposedly. They love each other, right? They've committed to loving one another. And I'm saying, hey, you go get the tea. Or can you go get? Or can you do this? And everyone is thinking about what I can get. And this is not the gospel. And this is why we don't see often the resurrection among the people of the church. Resurrection is not a greeting. Christ is risen, truly he is risen. That is not resurrection. Christ is risen when He's living in me and He's flowing through me. That His Spirit is flowing through me in service towards one another. You see, when we don't serve, we're likely to become more self-absorbed. Let's look at some of the biblical examples of life-giving relationships. In 1 Samuel chapter 18, verses 1 to 4, it says this, "Now when he had finished speaking to Saul, the soul of Jonathan was knit to the soul of David. And Jonathan loved him as his own soul. Saul took him that day and would not let him go home to his father's house anymore. Then Jonathan and David made a covenant because he loved him as his own soul. And Jonathan took off the robe that was on him and gave it to David with his armor, even to his sword and his bow and his belt." I want you to think about this for a second. Jonathan is the son of Saul, the king. So when Saul dies, who becomes king? Jonathan. Jonathan was so committed and so in love and tied to his best friend, David, that it says that their two souls were knit together. They were sewed together. But even more than that, it says that Jonathan took off his robe and gave his robe to David. It's one thing to say, David, we're going to give you one of the nicest rooms in the palace. Come live with us. Jonathan would have been like amazing. We would say, wow, Jonathan is really a very special friend. For him to take off his robe, his kingly robe, and to give it to David is one of the deepest signs of true friendship. And I want you to think about moments in which you have a friend in which it would have been nice if you took off your own selfish glory and praise and self-fulfillment for the glory of your brother. How many of us are happy for our brother when they succeed, or when they do well, or when they are shining? A lot of us say, well, like, I know that they're good at this, but I'm also good at, singing, or I'm really good at the Bible, or I'm this. And we have this like war within us, that we have this competition. Because I myself don't understand how to love. It shows me that I'm not resurrected. That I don't have the filling of Christ. I'm still in death. I'm still empty. I still don't have this deep connection with Christ. And so I can't love. So be careful. You might still be abiding in death. It's a covenantal friendship. Jonathan risked his life to protect David. Their friendship was rooted in loyalty, in honor. I want you to think about, do you honor the people in your life? Again, honor is not the absence of disrespect. And this is a cultural thing. If you think about, even like look at social media and how we treat like our president, and like anybody could say anything about anybody. It doesn't matter. But in the church, it's a different example. That based on every single person, the Bible says, esteem others higher than yourself. Inside the walls of the church, we're not like the world. I don't care who they are, you elevate them. When the bishop comes, we honor him. We honor those that are serving us, not because of rank, not because Abuna is a higher rank, but we honor the one that serves. It's an oxymoron, again, maybe because, the way the kind of the life of the church looks. It looks like Abuna is like the highest ranked. In a sense, it's correct. But it's not because he's better than everybody else, but the model of the priest is the model of a servant. The one that washes feet, the one that serves and lays his life down. And so what do? We honor. This concept of loyalty and faithfulness is so beautiful in this relationship. Another example. In the book of Ruth, Ruth was not a Jew. Her mother and father and their two sons had moved to, out of Jerusalem, and had gone down to another area where they weren't Jews. And they married among the non-Jews, and then the two brothers, the two boys who were Jews, died. The father died, and the mother-in-law, who was Jewish, was left by herself. So the daughter-in-law, Ruth, could have easily said, all right, my obligation towards you is over, right? My husband, your son, has died. You go your way, and I'll go my way, and God be with you. Look at Ruth. Ruth said, entreat me not to leave you. She's telling her mother-in-law, ladies, her mother-in-law, okay. She says, entreat me not to leave you. Beg me not to leave you. Don't allow me to leave you, or to turn back from following after you. For wherever you go, I will go, and wherever you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there will I be buried. The Lord do so to me, and more also, if anything but death parts you and me. This is resurrection. Transcending cultural boundaries. And I don't mean cultural like race, like Egyptian and American. And that's not what I mean by cultural. To go and be a non-Jew and live among the Jews was going to be a very difficult thing. Okay? That this woman, this widow, who her 2 sons died, her husband died, that's like a curse. Okay? And she's saying, I'm not leaving you. I'm attaching myself to you, and I will honor you. This woman, Ruth, the daughter-in-law, is going to probably have better opportunities to succeed, right? She's young. She could maybe marry another man. She could totally restart life. But that wasn't her way. Do you see the difference? Do you see the difference between the relationships of the world, where we're just in my zone and everything is like, I'll greet you for like at coffee hour, I'll greet you and say, hey, how are you? Welcome. The church doesn't have greeters. And the church doesn't have like welcoming committees. We have people that offer themselves to the service of another. That truly would be a gospel-filled church, a church that is living by the gospel. I'm so humbled by this relationship. Ruth chose loyalty and love over worldly security. How many of us think like, look, I gotta make ends meet. You know, Naomi, you were a good mother-in-law, you're a good lady, but what am I going to do in your land? You stay in my land, we're here, let's just figure it out here. What is this loyalty? What is this virtue? These are life-giving relationships. And because of that, Ruth went and she ended up marrying a man named Boaz, he was wealthy and he was very Christ-like. He's a type of Christ. And she ended up finding her life because of her love. Because of her life of love. Later on, you see Jesus described with his disciples. He says, greater love has no one than this, than to lay down one's life for his friends. Look what St. Basil the Great says. Having cleansed ourselves of all hatred, it is necessary to love even enemies, and when need be, to sacrifice one's soul for one's friends, having the same love as God and his Christ has for us. Again, this was the mind of the church. That greater love has no man than this, that a man laid down his life for his friends. So the next time you say, I love you, to whoever it is, talk is cheap. This is the concept of love in the church. The church, when the church thinks of love, it thinks like this. To sacrifice one's soul for one's friends. Having the same love as God. That is, he says, by this they will know you are my disciples. If you have love for one another. So it's really important for us to kind of evaluate and see this. That's what St. John Chrysostom says. Indeed, love is a strong wall, impregnable not only to men, but also to the devil. He who is surrounded by a multitude of those who love him cannot fall into danger. He has no reason to be angry, but always feels peace of heart, joy, and gladness. There is no reason to be jealous. There are no occasions for vindictiveness. Look how easily he carries out both his spiritual and worldly affairs. Who can compare to him? He is like a city completely shielded by walls, And he who has no love is like a city without any protection. And so be careful about this concept of love. It is okay to only have a couple friends that love and that you love. And it says that we are like walls of protection for one another, that my presence in your life is safety for you. That when I know what's going on in your life, that when I'm involved in the intricate details of your life, that you are safe because I love you. A lot of friendships feel like we can't call each other out. Hey, you should really be careful of this, or why are you doing this? Well, you can't tell me that. And look, like my life is my own business. Don't worry about me. Okay, you go ahead with your city without walls. See what happens to your life. And then you look back and life gets so messed up. You say, did I not have any friends that cared about me? Say, you pushed everyone away. You wouldn't let anyone love you correctly. You wouldn't let people call you out. You wouldn't let people be close to you. You wouldn't let people, and so when all of a sudden you found yourself in a place where you're by yourself, it's because we don't understand the life of love. Now let's look at death-inflicting relationships in Scripture. Here's one. Absalom, the son of David, okay, and we're going to read this passage. After this, Absalom, the son of David, had a lovely sister whose name was Tamar. And Amnon, the son of David, loved her. So Amnon, the son of David, loved his sister Tamar, but it was like from another mother. Loved her. Amnon was so distressed over his sister Tamar that he became sick, for she was a virgin. And it was improper for Amnon to do anything to her. But Amnon had a friend whose name was Jonadab, the son of Shimei, David's brother. Now Jonadab was a very crafty man. And he said to him, why are you, the king's son, becoming thinner day after day? What does that mean, the king's son? Like, what does that have to do with the conversation? He's saying, why are you the one that should be living to get whatever you want? The one that should have whatever he wants. Why are you getting thinner day after day? And he says this, will you not tell me? Amnon said to him, I love Tamar, my brother Absalom's sister. So Jonadab said to him, lie down on your bed and pretend to be ill. And when your father comes to you, say to him, please let my sister Tamar come and give me food and prepare the food in my sight, that I may see it and eat it from her hand. Then Amnon lay down and pretended to be ill, and when the king came to see him, Amnon said to the king, please let Tamar, my sister, come and make a couple of cakes for me in my sight, that I may eat from her hand. So Tamar came in, and Amnon ended up raping his half-sister. When he was conflicted, he was conflicted because he felt like it wasn't right. But then he had a Jonadab in his life that pushed him a little bit closer to his temptation, that pushed him a little bit closer to the line of compromise. Pretend. You should have whatever you want. You're the king's son. And this is so important that you say, do you also have a Jonadab in your life that is not telling you, hey, get up, let's go to church. I haven't seen you in a while for church. Or say, it's summer, enjoy your time, hang out. Or go get in this relationship when you know it's going to be destructive. Do you only have Jonadabs around you? I know a lot of young people. They cannot even imagine having a life-giving friend. And that's terrible. Don't be like that to your friends. Be life-giving. Because the Jonadabs ended up, we know that Absalom ended up killing Amnon. Like the brother of the girl that was raped, ended up killing Amnon, the one who did the raping. Jonadab, what are you doing, man? What kind of friend are you? And I want to ask you how you choose your friends. Do you choose them by default, like this person just happens to sit next to me in biology class, so we're friends? Or this person is on my basketball team, so we're friends? Or this person is my neighbor or my coworker or whatever it is. They're my friend just by default of being in close distance to me. No. Friendships have to be chosen because we're going to live in love. And I'm seeking one that's going to give me life, and I'm seeking somebody that I know I can pour into and give life. When was the last time that you said, okay, I really need to see who my true friendships are, and examine and say, I really like this person. They're godly, they're wise, they're spiritual, they care, they know how to sacrifice. I want to befriend this person. I will do whatever it takes to befriend, to go and to chase after a friend like that. When was the last time you chased a friend like that? I get people coming and telling me about their social groups at church, the families that get together. And they say, Abuna, Rabbana may warik. Like, it's so bad. Like, would you not, like, I wish you wouldn't even, like, hear about how bad it is. We all bring each other down. We all gossip about each other. We all talk about each other when the other one is not there. We are stabbing each other with knives. We're eating each other's flesh. You will abide in death if you live like that. Well, what's going to happen if I start distancing myself and then I'm going to feel like I totally just disappeared? You're looking for life. You are looking for life-giving relationships. It is not wrong for me to say, I'm sorry, either we fix it, I'm going to try to fix it. If you don't want to be fixed, I'm out. I'm out. You don't want life, and I don't want death. You don't want life. You won't let me pour life into you, and I don't want the death that you're pouring into me. Have you ever been able to make a stance like that in your life? It's hard. Come on, Abuna, I've known them for 10 years, or this is our group, and now we're not going to have anyone. I would rather be alone than perish with a multitude of people around me. So be careful of that. Samson and Delilah. Look what happened in Samson. I'm not going to read the whole passage, but we know that Samson was not supposed to interact with the Philistines. Okay? And so as he was starting to compromise, he found a woman that he was attracted to, Delilah. He started to get closer to her, and he let her play with his hair. We know that if his hair gets cut, he loses his power. So he begins to compromise with his Delilah. Who are the Delilahs in your life? It doesn't have to be like an opposite gender, but who are the Delilahs in your life that are teaching you the way of compromise? That, hey, let's get together and do this. You fill in the blank. You know what it is. Whatever it is that you feel the Delilahs in your life are doing. They're teaching you, they're playing with your hair, of which is the source of your strength. Be careful of that. Be careful of those Delilahs in your life. I want to tell you a story about St. John Chrysostom and St. Olympia. St. John Chrysostom was the Archbishop of Constantinople. St. Olympia was a young widowed woman. She was about 13 years younger than St. John Chrysostom. And she was a deaconess. And at the time, she was very rich. She had inherited when her parents died and her spouses died. She inherited a lot of wealth. And she wanted to live a very spiritual and ascetic life of worship and glorifying God, that they said this beautiful lady who has all this money, they tried to set her up with people. She says, I just want to live a life of worship to God. And she insisted that all of her wealth would go to the poor, of who her best friend, John Chrysostom, St. John Chrysostom, the Archbishop, they said they had a very special love-like bond, a spiritual love. That it said that John Chrysostom, the Archbishop, poured out his heart to Olympia. She was a woman that was filled with the Spirit of God. He would confide in her and pour out, but this is again, a woman that is Spirit-filled, has given her whole mind, heart, life to the worship of Christ. To the point where they would write letters. St. John Chrysostom was taken and he was put in a place in exile, like far away. And she was devastated. The Archbishop that she used to serve and she used to cook for him and make sure that she could take care of, he's like the patriarch of the church. He was taken far away from her. And so he would write her letters, always encouraging her, don't be despondent, don't have despair. The Spirit is always bonding us to one another. And he was always giving her spiritual encouragement, calling her out, telling her, no more tears. He says, I'm not going to send you any more letters if I find out that you're just crying all day. He says, basically, snap out of it, and I'll keep sending you letters. And it was this relationship of life-giving love, where these two people, St. John Chrysostom, an archbishop, and St. Olympia, a deaconess, had such a pure, holy love for one another that their friendship strengthened the whole church. Because as she was out as a deaconess serving others, she could feel empowered. And as she was encouraging John Chrysostom in his difficult times, John Chrysostom was empowered to serve again. And they had this like cycle of love, cycle of giving and respect and loyalty. St. John Chrysostom says this. He says, "You are my comfort, my support, my crown, my boasting." In St. John Chrysostom in Olympia. There's a book called The Letters to Olympia by St. John Chrysostom, different letters that he wrote to St. Olympia. Beautiful letters of while they're apart. She died a year after John Chrysostom, I think, because that bond between them, after John Chrysostom died, she couldn't handle living knowing that he wasn't anymore like in the church and serving, that she, not too far after, passed away. Beautiful relationships. How can we cultivate these godly relationships? First thing is, seek friends who point you to Christ. St. Gregory of Nazianzen says this, "True friendship is a journey toward God, hand in hand." It is what? It's a journey. Every day we're growing together. Yeah, we argue, we have our differences, we fight. Maybe we have our tiffs, often we have our differences. But hand in hand, where are we going? Ultimately, we're going to God. And if that is the mutual direction that we're going, then any friendship will work, right? Because we're going to God and His commandments and His way of life, that if we go hand in hand in this journey, we will experience true friendship. Next, be a life-giving friend. Bible in Ephesians chapter 4 says, "Speak the truth in love." What does that mean? Many of us, we just use kind, loving words because we don't want to upset others, so we just give love and never truth. Other people are they love the truth. They love the knife. They give the truth, but without love. You know, you need to fix your life, and you need to do this, and you need to, and correcting, but with no love. The gospel has taught us, speak the truth in love, that you know my love. I'm constantly communicating love, and I'm communicating truth. Never one without the other. These are life-giving relationships. This is a relationship of resurrection, where one that is only giving truth is killing me. You're killing I feel unloved, I feel attacked. And one that is only giving love, like kind words and encouragement, and never truth, is also killing me because I have no direction in my life. Do you have a truth in love friend? A person that is a truth in love friend that you will take it from. You know that this person in my life, they can tell me anything. I won't be upset. I don't care who they are. I won't be upset. There's other people who are like, if she tells me, no, she can't talk to me like that. Be careful of that. Also, people who give life to us are people who notice us. Are you noticed? Do people sense where you are? They know what we love and they know what we fear. When we work and truly notice someone else, love for them begins to grow. It's really important. Not notice meaning, oh, I noticed you weren't at church today. No. I notice the things that you love. And the same thing with Jesus. I know the things that God loves. And I know the things that He doesn't like. And this is where our bond grows between me and Christ. And that I know the things that God loves, and I know the things that He hates. And I know the things that my friend loves, and I know the things that he or she hates. But if we're not close enough to one another, we don't notice. You see, when we truly observe another person, we become self-forgetful. We don't just like think of ourselves. That self-forgetfulness ends up causing our soul to grow and to be fulfilled when I don't think of myself. Mother Teresa says this, if you can't do great things, do little things with great love. If you can't do them with great love, do them with a little love. If you can't do them with a little love, do them anyways. Love grows when people serve. Beautiful. And there's the gift of commitment. One of the marks of the early church was their commitment to connectedness. That when you read in the book of Acts, it says they gathered together in one place. It says over and over in the first several chapters, they were in one accord. That they were in the breaking of bread. That they had all things common. It does not say that I had nice shoes and she has no shoes. That wasn't. That was constantly committed to one another. That is the life of resurrection. Who are you committed to? Maybe you're committed. Some people you're committed to out of obligation. And maybe that obligation is even your spouse, which is not a good thing. Look outside of your spouse and your people live within your home. Who are you committed to? Are you committed to anyone? Are you in your own little bubble? Yeah, no, I ask about that. No. I don't want you to ask about people. I want you to bring healing love to others. Look what Hebrews 10:24-25 says. And let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. Look at this verse again. Not giving up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing. Meaning, we also have a commitment to one another in the church. That I have a commitment to be part of this. Thomas, what happened to Thomas when he wasn't in the church gathering when Christ appeared? Today's gospel. He missed out on Jesus. He missed out on a blessing that they're like, oh, Thomas, Jesus was just with us. He's like, why does he wait till I'm not there? Because we're meeting on Sunday. Like, we meet on Sunday. That's what we do, Thomas. Like, that Christ is in our midst when we're together and we're committed to one another. Something so beautiful. The gift of love. Having that gift of love. Look at Romans 13:8 says, owe no one anything except to love one another. I don't owe you anything except to love you. Have you heard that saying in Arabic, like, da malush haga andi? Like, I don't owe this person anything. That's not the gospel. It says, owe no one anything except, so you owe them something. Except. The key word is except. What do I owe you? I owe that I have to love you. Because that's what I do with Christ. And that's what Christ does to me. He owes me nothing. Jesus, a lot of us are, Jesus, you didn't answer my prayer. Like as if he didn't do enough. And as if you've done something. Like, I've done nothing. I fasted for, until 1 p.m. on Good Friday, and I think I'm St. Anthony. And because of that, like, God, you owe me. You owe me. God doesn't owe you anything. And he still chooses to constantly act as though he owes you love. That's just the heart of Jesus. That's the life of resurrection. So what is resurrection? It's taking us to another level. Also, the Spirit of God flows in transparency. When you can step into openness and stop pretending, you find yourself coming alive. When you can be the real you. At one time, I had a friend that one of his own sins and mistakes got exposed to some of his friends. And his friends still loved him anyways. They said, why didn't you tell us like a long time ago that he's been living in this like darkness and guilt and shame? He said, if you would have told us, we would have just showed you that we love you anyways. That how beautiful is that when somebody can feel safe, that when we're transparent with one another. Hiddenness and pretending are always the enemy of life in relationships. Don't be fake with each other. Being fake brings death. Are you fake with people? People are so fake. Fake people people are disgusted by fake people. They want to have nothing to do with fake people. Everybody that comes to church wearing our masks, everything is great. My kids are perfect. My wife is perfect. My life is perfect. My job is perfect. My retirement is perfect. Everything is great. I don't need a person like that. There's a story of Abuna, I'm not going to say his name. He's still alive. He's a monk, and he was in a monastery, in St. Macarius Monastery, in the early 70s, where all the monks were living in a place where it was all caves. They had no electricity, they had no water, all the monks were living there. And this young monk was hanging around. He was new to the monastery. I was hanging around with some of these elderly monks after they had gone back to be in the monastery. And they were all sitting talking about the good old days when we used to live in the caves and the prayers and the fellowship. And the young monk is like, you guys were all saints. Like nobody struggled. And the young monk is feeling like, I don't know if I can keep up with you people. So he went to his cell and he felt disappointed. One of the old monks came later on to his cell and knocked on the door and said, Abuna, I want to tell you something. He said, what? He said, it's a shame that we only showed you about the glory days. No, we struggled and we gave up and we were arguing with each other and we had temptations and some of us wanted to leave the monastic life and we were in despair in these times. And he said, the young monk told the old monk, he said, I learned so much in this last 10 seconds than the hour of the glory days of hearing all the magical stories about when the saints were appearing. And he said, knowing the transparency of our struggles and being real with one another, that is a true resurrected relationship. Accept one another then, just as Christ accepted you in order to bring praise to God. Last thing, when I am in superficial relationships, I can forget my brokenness. And I end up living a fake life. I don't repent. I don't change. I don't grow. I don't heal. We're all perfect. Everybody here is perfect. That's the worst. That is not a real community. That is not a Christ-centered community, and that is not a resurrected community. A resurrected community is somebody that understands that we're here to bring life to one another, not to judge one another, not to bring people down, but to accept everyone. That everyone who comes to this door, no matter how they are, what they look like, where they come from, they are accepted because we're here to bring life, not to take life from others. Okay? Glory be to God forever. Amen. Let's stand up and pray.